Early, sir, but good enough. Welcome to Faz Radio, people. We are broadcasting live from multiple locations across the United States. Faz is currently traveling outside of his comfort zone in another city on the other coast from where he lives.
Did you get the jitters on the plane since you haven't been on one in a while?
No, actually, I didn't. I did pretty fine. I haven't. I usually get worried when I get on the plane the first time, and then when I get like the second and third time, I like chill out. But this time, it didn't bother me at all.
Nice. So that's probably like a 4-hour flight, huh?
5. Took me 5 hours.
5?
Probably one additional hour to go back.
Yeah.
I'm closer to you now.
Right? It's 6 hours of a drive from Cleveland to D.C. I made that many times during those military days.
Yes, I'm in Washington, D.C. at the moment at a very creepy old hotel, which I won't say the name so they don't get a terrible review, but they are weird. It's a very weird place.
That's kind of cool. That's something I would love to stay in.
Black walls? That's fucked up, man. Oh, here. Let's look at some of the art on the walls. This is like some crazy spooky ass shit. What the fuck is that?
It's a picture of someone who stayed there.
Yeah, let's see. Weird stuff on the wall, like pictures of I don't know.
Somebody's
Theodore
family.
Roosevelt. That's Theodore Roosevelt right there.
Is that the Roosevelt room?
The ghost of his family is still in this room.
Don't let Faz fool you. He's a guest of Joe Biden, and he's staying in one of the rooms at the White House.
Vague Renaissance crap. Oh, look. Here's a swatch of carpet that they put on the wall. By the way, it's very dark because this is a really creepy-ass hotel that doesn't have a lot of lights in it. So who hangs a swatch of carpet on the fucking wall? I don't know. So
maybe that was fashionable at some point.
Anyway, so I'm broadcasting here live. So you have prepared some stuff since I've been busy, and unfortunately I'm not going to be here tomorrow because I'm going to be flying while you're talking, but you've taken care of that, right?
I've absolutely taken care of that. I am committed to no more missed Faz radios. So I've empowered the premium CFA folks to come on the show, and the first one will be Glitch. From Glitch Through Gaming. He's going to join us tomorrow night as a co-host. Glitch is fantastic, and he just did a wonderful podcast with Evenwave, who's part of the MOF, and those two go way back together. It's a good cast. You should check that out. But for premium members and the general community, if you have something interesting to say about tomorrow's show, shoot me a note. You can come on and talk with us. The more the merrier. We'll talk about tomorrow's shows tomorrow, but tonight, you mentioned it in the last two casts, and even mentioned it with Bitbender last week, that a lot of us are armchair quarterbacking the blockchain gaming space. And so
everybody has a fucking opinion.
Yep. And so I thought tonight we could talk about some of the things we've talked about in the past about maybe how that can be changed. I shouldn't say changed. How it can be improved. Yeah, useful to blockchain gaming. Now that we have 2 years of blockchain gaming experience under our belts, folks, comment away. We're happy to hear those comments and talk about those if something interesting comes up. So you are very adamant about this becoming the next way of doing gaming.
Blockchain gaming.
Basically, yes. Basically just saying it won't be blockchain gaming and traditional gaming. It'll just be gaming. Why do you think that people will just make the leap?
Well, actually, let's back up and say there might be some competition for a while, but so the whole point, when you do a traditional game, and I'm just trying to think of just stuff you might find on Steam to where you buy some DLC or you buy some skins to play in the game, stuff like that. Everything's run from a central server. And, of course, if you piss off the company that runs that central server, I don't know, maybe you ran some cheats or maybe you did some other nefarious stuff, maybe, maybe proposition children on this show. I mean, on the game through chat, you're going to get banned. Well, you'll have an account, and anything on your account would get banned with your account. So I don't know if you bought some really expensive shit, it's gone. Well, blockchain gaming gives you the option of owning the things that you buy. If you buy skins or if you earn things in the game, they're yours. Now, yes, you can still get banned from the server just like you would from Steam or Steam games, just like you normally would. But at least you'd be able to sell your stuff that you've earned. So if you earned a sword of whatever in the game, and then you get banned because you're a pedophile, at least you can sell your sword and then do what everybody else does, which is just create a new account and start over again.
With KYC, that may not be possible, though.
That's a good that's a good point. So if your stuff is KYC'd, it's going to make things a lot harder. Because you're going to have a blockchain ledger that keeps track of the history of the object that you purchased, etc. So whatever the case is, there's a lot of real estate and valuable objects in games that take a long time to earn, and that has real value. If you buy a piece of land in a game, that piece of land is going to be used by anybody and everybody in the game, and should be as valuable as land in the real world. Now, the promise with blockchain gaming, the ultimate promise of blockchain gaming is that they could be run on decentralized nodes, on the blockchain, using the blockchain, and so the game could run itself in perpetuity. That would be something that's not company specific, and would be really cool, because then the company that made it could go out of business, and the game would still be there. You could still buy things for it, and you could still play the game, and everything would run perfectly. And of course, these games would have a way to be modified. So whoever holds the keys to modify the game, maybe some, what do you call it? Maybe some organization runs the game or something, then they would be able to modify the game or put out different versions of the game out there. So that's the beginning.
Let me ask you something about what you said there, because I found it interesting. We had an offline discussion about this a while back, and I brought up the same point. So what would motivate a company who's out for profit to want to decentralize their games and just let it be run by the community on nodes, when the profit opportunity kind of goes away at that point?
Well, okay, that's an interesting way to put that, because the way gaming would basically become a lot like Linux is created and distributed. Linux is, generally developed by a community of people that are interested in specific features. So you have like Debian Linux and Fedora Linux and stuff like that, and
Fedora.
There's Ubuntu, or Ubuntu if you're South African, and then there's Mint OS, which I rather liked. I don't know if that's still around, which is a version of Ubuntu. But you would have various communities, or maybe DAOs, that would develop and support these games. And could you re-ask? Oh, yeah.
What's the motivation? Yeah,
so the motivation for developing for Linux applications is the very act of supporting the operating system can make you money. You can develop components for this operating system that people will pay you for. So if you're a developer, you can get paid to fix the game. You can get paid to make NFTs. You can get paid to improve the node system or something like that. The developer, there's something there. Not only that, if you're a developer, remember, whenever you develop a game, you're kind of roped into maintaining it indefinitely. Well, what if your company makes a game and it just doesn't want to support it anymore? It can just walk away, and other people can support it, and then you can go about developing new ideas. One of the coins that I got into, that you roped me into, was Black Eye Galaxy.
Oh my God! Here we go again.
The concept of the game is pretty interesting, but what they did is they walked away from it. Now, if the game was truly a decentralized blockchain game, wouldn't matter. You can still play the game in perpetuity. And so that idea would be out there and functional and running. And then the developers, of course, from that game went elsewhere and developed a different game. Great. If if a developer gets tired of something, they can move on. Good. That other people can continue development on the game.
So how see there's another rub. How does that IP translate into? Do they just release that to the blockchain and the devs then, so it can run in perpetuity?
Well, I think that there would be a process. If it's decentralized game, there would be a process of transferring the keys. If you remember when we talked to Bitbender last week, I said they were talking about so many people in Gala Games holds the keys for creating these nodes and stuff like that, or at least maintaining them. And my question to him was, what's the process for transferring these keys to people?
And what's the incentive? That's what I was asking with this question.
And he didn't have an answer for that because they're not that far yet. But so that's going to be the real catch for any new blockchain game that comes out is what's the process of transferring development ownership, as it were. The goal would be that any developer, just like with Linux and anything open source, any developer can develop features for the game, and then a voting community would just vote them into the game.
Mm-hmm. So that's one of the top things that I would like to see is actual progress in moving towards that decentralization that you just talked about. And I always get hung up on that because of the incentive. The company wants to survive. The company putting this ecosystem together, and I'm not referring just to Gala here. I'm talking any of these ecosystems, EVIO, Decentraland, any of them. It seems counterintuitive to just hand things over. You're losing revenue stream.
Not exactly. The incentive is to have a rich ecosystem that you can add things to as little or as much as you want. It's up to the company to decide how involved it wants to get into the ecosystem. The company wants to jump in and jump back out. Maybe they could just make a set of NFTs and move on. Or they can get really deep and be responsible for just about everything. Great.
So the other part of that, I think they can improve. Like, for example, and I'm just using this as an example because a lot of our followers understand it. I'm not suggesting this by any means. I'm not trying to slip it in the back door there. But you have Game Media, right, who does spider tanks. And let's say they don't want to do it anymore. They want to focus on that other game that they have. Yeah, I know what she said, too. I know exactly what she said to you because I used the poor choice of language there. They don't want to do it anymore. They want to back out. Gala could then transfer those keys of that developer side of it to another developer who might then be able to improve the game and make it a little bit better. Because there's always people with ideas, right? So if you handed the development of spider tanks, let's just say, off to the Mafia, the esports Mafia, they would take that game in a totally different direction than probably Game Media does. And that's what fine. I would like to see. I would love to see stuff like that happen. That's where I would like to see blockchain gaming go.
And that's fine. The whole in fact, you can even have clones of the game. You got very many different versions of the game. Say I don't know. Let's just say Miranda's for example, by Gala Games became decentralized, completely decentralized, and maybe you don't like some of the features on it. You could then copy it and make your own version of it. You'd fork it just like you'd fork a coin like Bitcoin. So that's cool. You get. Maybe if you think about Team Fortress, if you look at Steam, there's a mod called Gary's Mod, which makes a lot of changes.
My kids used to play that when they were young.
Hmm.
They really enjoyed that.
So Gary's mod
So,
was
yeah.
is cooler than the game. So I mean, it could be that if that so and so's mod, Titan's mod of Mirandus became the better one to play. That's the promise. But the whole point is, once you buy land into something, that land retains value. It's not dependent upon a company. It's dependent upon the success of the game, which is maintained by a lot of different people.
So how does a company go about doing that? What steps are involved? Is it like a huge process, or is it fairly easy, do you think?
Well, I would think it would be similar to creating a new distro of Linux, but if you're talking about blockchain, it could be made pretty easy. Some of these tasks are probably pretty hard right now, but you get a company that's committed to bringing blockchain games to the blockchain. I don't know. There are companies that do lots of like phone games. Like I'm thinking Rovio, who makes Angry Birds.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
they Angry Birds is like their 170th game. It wasn't their first, and so they have a billion different games out there. It's just one of them really took off. Great, you can have a company that instead of making phone games makes blockchain games, and they're gonna eventually there's gonna be a cool one out there, and each one maybe they just farm it off to have somebody else support it.
So, using that same model, another idea I had that I think would be a great addition to this is to get off of this Steam based model, meaning you have to be an ecosystem that has 35 different games on it. Um, I think that model is going to get old at some point, and you have these things that would break off and go decentralized. They would kind of migrate themselves out of that ecosystem eventually anyway and join new ecosystems.
I'm perfectly fine with a company starting up a game, designing a game, putting it out there, getting people to use it, or play it, and then walking away. That's fine. That would be an advantage because they can keep throwing down additional ideas and let other people take it where they want them to go.
Well, and that goes along the same lines with, one person or one company doesn't have all the great ideas. When it comes to putting encouraging a company to do that, what would be some incentives you could provide a company in order from a player base? What would the players need to do in order to help that decision-making process move
Well,
along those lines?
it could be as simple as if you make a new component for the game that whoever makes this gets rewarded by getting game tokens. I mean, you can have anybody developing NFTs for a game. Somebody though is going to have to work on the game mechanics and balance though, which might also be voted on. So I think that there's got to be some sort of DAO organization associated with maintaining the game personally.
So Bitbender brought that topic up, and it's a very contentious topic right now. With he said he challenged, show me a DAO that's worked, right?
It's very early days.
Yeah. So, early days. That's a buzzword I think I've heard
Well,
recently.
the concept,
But
okay, the concept of a DAO is certainly out there, but since it hasn't really worked very well or been executed very well, somebody's got to come up with an interpretation that works. That's all. And that's why I say it's early days. The concept is out there that it could be decentralized. Now somebody has to get it right. That's going to take a while.
okay.
Because
So
getting it right
from
really depends upon regulation, which right now hasn't been coming. So, I mean, do you remember years ago, the concept of an LLC came out and a limited liability company? Before that, you know that improved things about or changed things about how companies could work if you needed them to. It I bet some of the first people that had LLCs went through a bit of a rough time before things got fully regulated. Same thing with DAOs. That's going to happen.
from a player perspective, okay, just strictly from a player perspective, you have far more experience in this than me. What would incentivize you, besides obviously token earnings? We're talking gameplay. What would incentivize you to play a game that you don't see happening yet?
Oh, that's a weird question.
So right now, okay, so part of this whole thing...
You mean to invest in a game or play it? When you say play a game that you don't see
I'm talking
happening.
strictly as a player, right? So you right now, a lot of people are playing these games just for the tokens, right? You can see that with May Mayhem that Gala's running. All of a sudden, all the gamers come out of the woodwork and start playing these games during May Mayhem, and every year you see the player base then dwindle off after. So it leads me to believe that a lot of the blockchain gamers are, as Benefactor likes to put it, ROI boys, right? They want to make their tokens.
Okay.
So instead, we keep saying it needs to be about the games. So what is not in these games that would compel you to play them?
That's again
What's
a weird
missing?
question. You're throwing a lot of disparate things together. You're making a weird question sandwich. Let's start a little bit simpler. Why would people be incentivized to play these games? Is that what you want to know?
Where's the hook? That's a better way of putting it.
Well, the hook is just like any other game. It's just that you get ownership when playing the game. So the hook is the ownership.
But we're not seeing that being massively adopted. Most people don't like NFTs.
Well,
gamers,
there's a certain barrier you got to get over. So gamers see NFT as a lot like microtransactions. Right now, it costs a lot of money to develop a game. A lot of money. It used to be that you could pay like $50, $60 and get a computer game and play it for years, and maybe there'd be a couple patches, and then you go buy the sequel. Well, the whole thing, the whole game that's put out is a bet by a company that they're going to make a lot of money, that enough people are going to buy this game to where it's going to be profitable for them, and that's why they make the second, the second version of the game. Blockchain games are really no different. The old style games want to get a community, so the community would keep playing. But the problem is, once you put out a version of the game, there's the cost to maintain it just go up and up and up and up. They don't have enough money to keep adding to the first game, so they just make another bet and then wait a few years and make the second game. Blockchain gaming wants to make it to where the development of the game is funded by NFT. Sorry, microtransactions make it so that game development is funded by buying skins and stuff in the game. Blockchain games basically use NFTs instead of the typical microtransactions. In standard games, the microtransactions go to pay a company for more development. In blockchain games, NFTs would be the microtransactions that would pay the game developer or maybe DAO or something money to continue developing the game.
What do you see as the next major win that we see in blockchain gaming?
Somebody doing it right?
Well, okay, so what does that mean? That's kind of what I'm getting at. My
line
of questioning tonight, I apologize. I'm having trouble. There's so much running through my head about this. What do you see the next? Because obviously they have to overcome hurdles, right, to make this all work.
You got to make games easy enough for your grandmother to play. For one, you can't make it so complicated that you got to figure out this obscure wallet and make a private key and then make it so you have to do some crypto wizardry bullshit. You just need the thing to work. Now there are components to make it work. For example, Samsung, I believe, has it to where they have a crypto wallet as part of their operating system in their phones. I seem to remember that from a few years ago. Great. So if you have a Samsung phone, then it'll just use by default the wallet on your phone. And so when you sign up for the game, it says, hey, use the Samsung wallet? Yep. Okay. Now play the game. There you go. It's already been KYC'd.
So I've seen a lot of people talking about that, and I think that's a huge point, is having it be a blockchain game when nobody knows it's a blockchain game. It just connects to your wallet, whether it's Apple Wallet, Samsung Wallet, Google Wallet, or anything along those lines. It works the same way. And if you earn anything in those games or get NFTs or want to transact in NFTs, it's all native right there, either on your computer, your tablet, or your mobile wallet.
When you have a blockchain game where you own assets in the game, you've got to keep track of it. Now, if you're in a non-blockchain game, like I don't know, Team Fortress, and you buy assets for the game, the company keeps track of it. You don't, the company does. And they tell you the state of what you have at any time. And if it disappears from your account, then you got to go call their customer service and get it back. And they have to believe you and whatever. They have to make sure that they manage all that. All it's doing is taking that management away from the company that's developing it and puts it in your hands. So people have to get used to managing game assets that they would normally have managed for them. Well, that's actually a big ask to actually manage your own assets yourself. And people have to understand that this is something that they want to do. So I think there's a big psychological hurdle to get over.
Do you think that's part of what inhibits things as well?
Well,
what the fuck are you drinking?
So I got some Thai food.
It looks
here,
like a
soup.
cup of puke.
Well, it could be. Looks like Tom Kha soup, to be honest. However, unfortunately, there's no spoons that came with it, and so I'm just drinking it out of the container. It's gonna look weird. I'll turn the phone away when I start eating things out of the containers.
Well, it just, all I saw was this green slop, and I'm like, that can't be tea.
Nope. Let's see. Brains. It's brains. Anyway,
Yeah.
So the concept that a person has to manage their own assets outside of a game is brand new. People aren't used to doing that. They're used to the game just doing it for them. A lot of people are going to resist. A lot of people are going to say, I don't want to have to fucking do that. Great. You can have game asset providers out there called, banks or something that can do that. What do banks do best? Banks actually do services best. What do they do shittiest? What they do the shittiest is managing money. Don't have a bank. But if you have a blockchain, they can provide the service of plugging into a blockchain, which manages the assets for you, and then they can help report it and help facilitate transactions. Great. That's the best part of banks. Give them something else to do. But you have to have a government that's up to the challenge and to allow banks to do that.
That is, it's funny that you said that because we didn't even coordinate this, and that's what I was going to ask you next because that's an idea that I have. There's some platforms out there, one of which started off really small. It's growing in popularity. It's called DBank, right? And you go there, you can see your NFTs. It's like a online wallet kind of thing, and it lets you interact.
Rostakip's thing?
Well, there's that too, but I'm talking about there's a website called DBank.
Yeah, it's run by China, so I don't know.
It has services that you can utilize within it for your NFTs, and they're starting to expand just outside of just NFTs. But it's like that banking model, right? So you have this platform where you can manage your assets, not necessarily like OpenSea where you sell them. But I think that the marketplace for services like DBank and what Rostakip is building, I think that's going to really, really help in the long run because Rostakip just released another tracker that is tracking Gala's May Mayhem. You can see your rankings and what you've played and all that kind of stuff. So these services, these platforms that will allow you to interact with all of your assets from all the various gaming platforms, I think is going to be a huge, huge motivator.
So you have
that gets people involved in this.
Great. So that is a completely separate entity out there. So you have the game developers, then you have the people that help you manage your assets, and that's different than just doing the wallet. You can manage it yourself if you have a wallet. Or you can have somebody manage it for you, which is what we're used to. when you go to a bank and pull your money out of a bank. You're used to the bank managing your assets for you. Great, that's fine. Let people manage your NFTs and your skins and stuff like that for you, and your crypto. Great. That's part of what makes a rich ecosystem.
Yeah.
So just do it with games. So so I think you're still in the kind of the introductory part of all your questions, which is just what needs to be done. Why it needs to be done is because gaming is becoming a bit more mature. Gaming is more than just playing Pac-Man these days. It's when you play Pac-Man, you get through to a certain level. You want your progress to mean something. If you spend 15 hours playing a game, you should have something tangible, even intangible, you should have something tangible or intangible to show for it that then would be of value to somebody else. That is how an economy is made. Because then somebody would want that, they would buy that. If you get like all these things in a game, you should be able to exit. You should have made a lot of value and then be able to cash out of that value. That way your time's not wasted, just blowing your time on a game. And gamers don't understand this right now. Gamers think that I just like to do this for fun. It's like, you can actually do this for value. And of course, that's going to make a whole new class of people whose sole job it is to play games to extract value out of it. Okay, fine. Games need a lot of people and players in it. Fine, they'll just be background noise in the game. Fine. So what? So what if you have South Korean farms of warehouses of people playing games? I know that there's South Korean farms that are playing Ultima every day, farming sheep. That's all they do. Great. You have people farming sheep in the real world too. Great. So it might just be that every player you see in a game, no one will be an NPC. Everybody will be a real person doing something. Great. Okay. That's value.
Excellent segue. I was just going to go in. We're about halfway through the show now. And I did want to talk about some ways that play and earn or earnings or anything else could be improved in this space and I want us to look at this from the player standpoint, because big companies look at it obviously from what can they sell to make profit. If you're going to have these earnings or potential ownership, I don't like the word ownership even, but the ability to hold your own NFTs. Let's leave it at that.
That would be ownership.
And we can argue nuance another time, because we argue about that a lot. But from a player's perspective, and from expectations and from the marketing that's done around it, how can the earnings part of this blockchain gaming go to another level to where it's not totally focused on how much you can put in your pocket?
Well, yeah, I think you need to telegraph what you're asking. It sounds like you're asking me to come up with the next level. What next level are you talking about?
Well, in other words, right, I told you I'm having difficulty because there's so much running through my head about this. It's
try being a bit more broad.
Okay.
Try saying something like what comes next after.
Let me use another example, right? So you have this spider tanks economy, right? Where you can take your VP and convert it into this, that, and the other, and you buy your tank parts, right? The object from the gaming company's perspective is we want all those tokens left on the platform. We want users spending those and sending them right back to us, right? So that's not motivation to a player per se, because what they're ultimately going to do is they'll willfully hand over those tokens to upgrade whatever parts they need for the sole purpose of getting to a different level and higher earnings. And at some point, they're going to want to extract that. So how do you take those earnings and do something besides buy something with it or extract it? There has to be another way to do it. These traditional games have a lot of other things you can do with your experience points and everything else that take you to take the focus off what you're actually spending or making in a game.
Like what?
For example, you have so many gold, you can, let's say, get another area of the map unlocked. Or you can take the diamonds that you earn and increase your experience, which then helps you level up to a different level. Right now, it's just buying and selling tangible goods within, or NFTs, I should say, buying and selling tangible NFTs.
You're talking about spider tanks, right?
Well, I'm using that as an example, but
Spider
in any of these
Tanks is-
blockchain games, they don't let you do anything with
Okay,
the
wait a minute.
tokens except buy something.
Okay, so what you're talking about is, since it is so early in the blockchain gaming arena, they're not going to have complex reward loops for you to engage in. Right now, they have simple reward loops, and so when you're talking about spider tanks, where you can get experience points to buy tank parts, that's a very simple reward loop. It's another reward loop in a way. If you were to be able to pull something out of the game, you'll lose honor points, but then you're going to get the reward of being paid for that. So if I upgrade a flamethrower to level 10 and I take it out of the game and I sell it for $1,000, how much money did I put in the game to get that? Well, whatever. If I spent 20 hours in the game to get $1,000, that's actually better than if I were to get a job at a pizza place. So,
well,
I mean,
what I'm saying is, right, you using that example you just gave, right? I take my tokens that I earn playing spider tanks and I upgrade my flamethrower. That's all I can do. I can't take those tokens and say unlock a different map to play on. I can't take those tokens.
Okay,
and
I just answered that. I said right now games have very simplistic reward loops because it's very early. I'm
why do you
expecting
think
a game
that is?
because they just started out. Because they haven't been around for 6 years. They've been around for 6 months.
Well, but see, this is where the disconnect is maybe then too, because I think that would open up a lot more opportunity for gamers.
Well, sure it would.
If they had. So they've been doing it in traditional gaming for years, and Eric and company have done that.
Well, you're
at
talking about Gala
Zynga.
Games, right?
Right. That's the examples, because our base is 90% Gala people, right? So they've been doing that with Zynga for years, Mafia Wars and Farmville. So they know how to do that. Why can't they bring that? What do you think is preventing them from bringing that to blockchain gaming?
Time
they
and
built
money.
those games from they built those games from scratch too, and they had that in there from minute one. Why wouldn't they
there's an
bring that in
assumption-
from minute one?
Because they didn't have it from minute one. That's the problem. See, Zynga didn't start out with all the games that it has right now. It started out with a whole lot less games. So you're throwing an assumption there that they had. I mean, you're saying it from minute one. No, they didn't. They didn't have all those games.
I played. No, I'm not talking about games. I'm talking about the other things you can do with your stars or your gems or your tokens. I played Farmville at the beginning. I played Mafia Wars at the beginning. And there was always like 20 different things that you could do with the equivalent of those tokens. So they built that in from the beginning. Why wouldn't they build those things in from the beginning in blockchain side?
Okay, so the difference between gaming with like something on Steam or Zynga and blockchain gaming is blockchain gaming frequently uses an ecosystem. So if you buy something on Farmville, all you really are is just finding a different way to have you have programmed a different way to have a storefront. Any money you put in doesn't go back into the game's economy. It goes into the company's pockets. But when you play something in, say, Mirandus or possibly even Spider Tanks, what gets created in the game stays in the game as part of an ecosystem. Things don't disappear. Once you buy something, your money goes somewhere and then sits somewhere. So it's what's missing is the level of what happens to that money. They're doing a whole lot more with the lesser features than say Zynga would. That's what's it. That's it. They're using real money. They're putting it into a real economy, the real functioning economy. Zynga doesn't do that. You're just buying shit. Everybody can have the sword of whatever in a Zynga game. Not so in Mirandus. Mirandus it might only have 3 of them for the whole game, and then you'll keep track of them. And if 2 of them are sitting on OpenSea, then you only have 1 in the game. Well, not so in a Zynga game or something on Steam. Anybody can have the sword of whatever. No, and if they spend 1,000 hours earning the sword, fine. Everybody's running around in the game with one. That's not going to be the case of a lot of blockchain games. So there's an economy that's missing from standard games that takes a lot of tweaking and messing with and so on to get it right.
Fair. Do you think the earn portion of it should stay in there, or do you think that should go away?
Can you be more specific? The earn portion?
Yeah, earning tokens. Instead, maybe earn NFTs or earn, like the MAF does, like cred that gives you benefits. Do you think that token earning is causing more problems than it's worth?
I don't know yet. I'm going to say that the idea of play to earn or play to own is still finding its feet as far as what its definition is. So no, I don't think earning in a game is a problem. However, governments seem to not understand what earning means. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with having a job where you spend all day earning things in a game to go sell in a marketplace, and that's your 24/7 job. Hey, my job is to make electronic things. Great. Well, the funny thing is, governments realize that's all just built in thin air. They could just produce 1,000,000 swords of whatever, instead of just 1, or just 5, or something like that. And so governments, which run their own economies, realize that certain players or certain development houses run economies too. And they don't like that, especially when you can arbitrage things back and forth between virtual economies and real economies, which would affect a real economy. What if you had half of South Korea making, earning swords, really expensive swords, selling them on OpenSea, and then going back and forth between the games? You have now you have a real economic powerhouse that a real government would want to manage. And it could affect other things in the government, like wheat and oil and stuff like that. Why would anybody want to get out and drive around in cars if they're all playing video games, making invisible things? These are the things that keep the government up all night.
That's a really good point. We talked about that on a cast about a year ago, and I thought that was a really good discussion. We may need to revisit that one. I want us to remember that one, to talk about the impact that these type of blockchain games and these assets and even the tokens can do, and that's why the perspective is the way it is.
That's why the government perspective is the way it is, because they're starting to realize that whatever's happening in these games can affect the real economies, and they're scared of what this means, that they won't be able to control, or they'll have to control virtual economies. So say Miranda's got really popular. Well, all of a sudden, what happens in Miranda's doesn't stay in Miranda's, and the government will want to regulate what happens in fictional worlds. They'll say, well, you can't make so many more than 5 swords of whatever a year, and they have to be worth so much amount of money, or else it's going to crash our economy if people start yanking them out of the game. So this is where the interface between the government and virtual worlds are a problem. It's going to take a long time to solve. And people are going full speed ahead with doing this. So these are the questions that regular everyday gamers don't care about. They just want to play the game. They get sick and tired of paying microtransactions, but they don't seem to realize that developers cost money, and all these neat features that they want to play with, it's not free. Sorry, not everybody's sitting at their computer, wanking off playing video games all day. Some people are actually making the video games. Well, that's real.
So I have 2 questions left, and we're running right up on 45 minutes.
And my battery is running low, so I might not be here long.
My first question is a really simple one, and nobody's ever asked this. I've never seen this asked before, but it truly boggles my mind. Whenever we talk about in-game assets, every person on the planet that I've ever heard talk about it always uses the sword moniker. Why?
Because the sword's it's a virtual weapon. I mean, you could say armor. That's another one. I've seen that one used a lot. Swords, armor, gold, in-game gold. You get a lot of in-game gold. Okay. It could be worth more than outside of game gold. I'm
just wondering why everybody picks a sword when they talk about those things.
I guess you have to be a gamer. It's a little trivia. Magic the Gathering cards are worth more than their weight in gold. In real gold. The people who make Magic the Gathering cards also work very, very, very hard to have them not interpreted or seen as securities when they actually are.
So I want to circle back for my last question to something you said a little bit earlier. And you made a distinction between pre-funding models on blockchain versus companies making a bet and funding a game and then selling it for $60. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't that same model work on blockchain?
It could.
Why can't?
Nothing wrong with using that model.
Okay, so why hasn't anybody that I've seen, and we've reviewed a lot of these blockchain platforms, especially when
one is less risky than the other.
Okay,
so you could make a Red Dead Redemption 3 or 4 now. Red Dead Redemption series is pretty good, pretty fun. Each version, each game seems to be better than the original. What they do is they put out the game, they lock down all the features. Nothing fundamental changes about the game, but what they'll do is they'll put out patches to fix bugs in the game. Meanwhile, they'll want to take it to the next level and make it like maybe the newest version has a much more improved AI, which is a fundamental component of the game. And maybe they want to add a lot more realism, or more polygons or whatever. You can't change the polygons at will. You have to create an engine and just use that engine to render everything. So you want to make a better engine, you want to make better AI, you want to make better data handling capabilities so that this world is very real. Well, it takes years to do that. Well, somebody has to pay all those developers years in advance. Somebody has to pay $47 million or whatever, what it takes to make the new game several years in advance. That's the current typical traditional model. The new model is we don't have that kind of money sitting around because we haven't invested in other places and the economy isn't the best. So how about we just pay you as you build it?
Yeah, so you could still do that with a traditional model. You sell a token that is the first battle pass and you sell it for $100. And you get the people to buy that battle pass ahead of time to pre-fund your game. And then as that game is built out, it's put out, even buggy as it might be, just like they did with a game like Townstar. Buggy and patches coming left and right, and they sell things for small amounts, NFTs for small amounts, along the way to keep that funding going.
That's called a security.
It seems,
that's called a security. Look up the laundry token example in securities law.
Because traditional games do that all the time. I pre-bought the NBA game on Xbox for my kid. That's not a security.
Well, I would suspect that there's a way that they're doing it. So the battle pass, you can buy the battle pass before the game comes out?
Well, it's not so much a battle pass, but you buy the pre-release and you buy it in March and it says game comes out in September.
The pre-release has already been made that you're using, right? That you're playing immediately, right?
No, you're not playing immediately. I bought it in March and he didn't get it till September.
Well, I suspect there's more details there that you're not relating or I'm not hearing.
Well, I'm asking because I don't fully understand why it has to be this pre-funding model on blockchain when it doesn't have to be in traditional gaming. That's what I'm trying to dig down and understand.
You just described a method that was pre-funding. If you buy a battle pass now and you have to wait 6 months for the game, that is the very definition of pre-funding.
Right, but I'm saying why. We've waited way longer for Miranda's already, and there's probably still 3 or 4 years left, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between 6 months where a playable version of the game is ready and 4, 5, 6 years, right? Big difference.
Not really,
with,
just in people's...
Same with
people's...
in-game
No,
assets. I can't
really.
go buy the... I can't... Listen to me, let me finish. I can't go buy the golden basketball shoes. I can't go buy the special LeBron buff for my basketball players in that pre-funding stage. I can only purchase the game ahead of time.
It really depends. It depends on how it's set up. That could be a combination of pre-funding and venture capital. I don't know. Pre-funding by retail and venture capital. I mean, who knows?
I'm trying to
each one is
understand
different.
here.
It sounds like a very deep subject that needs its own set of casts on. To be honest, I can't explain that one quick because we don't have enough introspection about how those games are set up. You can do all of that with blockchain too. The only difference is the assets that are generated in the game can be owned by people, and when you get banned, you can still sell your stuff. That's it. I mean, that's the killer thing, and there are going to be, and these assets that are created have value, and there'll be an economy springing up around it to maintain and help you maintain these assets, improve these assets, and help you manage these assets. It's the very fact that you have an economy supporting these assets that are made in the game. That's what's the killer feature. Right now, traditional gaming doesn't have that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a big topic. That's another great show idea.
But how you fund a game can be funded the same way on blockchain as is done in traditional funding. Sure, doesn't matter how they do it. I think that's a red herring if you're looking for that to be some sort of sticking point that people have to get over. There's a million different ways to fund things.
I'm wondering if that's part of the prohibitive nature of gamers wanting to get into the blockchain side because they have to wait too long.
No,
so
I don't think it's
with
that.
Us
I think
talking about improvements,
gamers,
that's something I want to dig into to see if that can be improved.
Gamers are worried about the fact that they're going to be microtransaction to death, and they're also worried about the fact that they're going to have to manage wallets that they don't understand or care about. They're being asked to do more and more complex things just to play the goddamn game, when all they want to do is play the game. That's why gamers are having a problem.
Okay.
And that's what we took 53 minutes to get to.
Yeah, we took 53 minutes to get there. Final thoughts from DC Faz.
My phone's about to die. My final thoughts is I think we'll get there just fine. I think people need to chill the fuck out.
All right, y'all. Tomorrow night we have Glitch co-hosting because Faz will be in an airplane flying right past you if you live in the United States. And we're looking forward to tomorrow night. Thanks for joining us tonight. See you around like a donut. I lost the thing.
You lost?